Hello, hello, and good morning. Welcome to episode 3 of Sit Down, Stand Up. I think we're getting there. I think we're getting there with how we say this. A little bit of housekeeping. I do apologize for going over the 60 minutes. I am going to try to keep it under for some reason. So I actually set an alarm to tell me, hey, you've got a minute left, and that is supposed to tell me wrap it up. Let's land this plane. Let's put a bow on it. And I was like, no, I'm gonna wrap more presents. No, I'm gonna take another flight around the airport. And so we ended up going like 3 minutes over somehow, which is embarrassing. So just know when that goes off now, I'm going to just wherever we're at in the story, just gonna wrap it down. So wrap it up, bring it down, whatever the metaphor is, so that we get this 60 minutes or less. It's a matter of discipline, folks, is what it is. But let me just. Fat doesn't fight fair. I'm just going to jump that to the head of the line. Yes, I know we've got this whole story of it's riveting. I know you're like, what happened in New Jersey? What happened with the stand up there? I know. Just calm down. I'll get to it. I want to talk about fat though, because I don't like it. It irks me, and as I said, it doesn't fight fair. And here, its main strategy, its main stratagem. I think you can use that word too. I don't know. Anyway, is delayed reaction. It is the only time in life that I could think anything is effective by being delayed in its reaction time. Usually you want fast reaction. Gamers, oh, we're young and we're awesome because we're young and we've got those fast reflexes. Fat gets the job done because it has delayed reaction. Now, a lot of you people, especially if you're younger, I would say anybody under the age of 30, chances are you don't know what I'm talking about. So some of you do, but different body sizes, different metabolisms in general. But for folks like me, metabolism starts the exact opposite the way we start. We start off life doing very little, not being very productive, and gradually become functioning human beings. We don't even really look particularly human for like the first 6 months or 7 months. It's very potato-like, but we grow into that. We grow into ourselves, and we gradually become more productive, and we start working harder. And later in life, we might get to a point where we retire. The metabolism doesn't do that. Metabolism starts right at day one. It's like, I'm here, I'm ready. Let's do this. I'm fresh on the job. I'm going to metabolize the crap out of your body. And so it works its tail off for like 20 years. And then it's like, you know what? It's about time for me to retire. I'm not going to retire completely. I'm still going to do a little work on the side, some part-time work. But I'm not doing the full-time gig anymore. Don't need it. I got my pension. Everything's on cruise control as far as I'm concerned. You I got you through the early part of your life. I put in my 20 years. It's time for you to take it on your own. I'm leaving it up to the next generation to carry on. I don't know exactly how that metaphor works. It kind of broke down at the end, but that's what it does. It does great. I could see my rib cage for the first 25 years of my life. I crap you not. My rib cage could not see it. That was the downside to metabolism. It wasn't just like, hey, I can't gain weight. It was also, hey, I can't gain weight. I couldn't become muscular. You know what they used to call me in middle school? So this isn't going to make a lot of sense without some context, but are you all familiar with Bob Saget? Bob Saget was a comedian. I think he passed away too soon. He wasn't that old, but he passed away not too long ago. But he was on Full House, and he did America's Funniest Home Videos. I think that was what he's mainly known for. But he also did stand up. Bottom line was, he looked a certain way. And for whatever reason, somehow, you might be able to kind of see it-ish at this point. I don't know. But when I was much younger, middle school age, when America's Funniest Home Videos was in full swing, people thought I looked like Bob Saget, a young Bob Saget. And in fairness to Bob and myself, wasn't an unattractive fellow. He wasn't he wasn't a paragon. He wasn't an Adonis, really. But he wasn't unattractive. It wasn't like they were saying it to be mean. They just thought I looked like Bob Saget. I reminded them of Bob Saget, a friendly household name, which was great. So no insult meant by that, I don't think. The preface bird chest, however, that was meant as an insult, and that was what my fellow gym class people called me. Well, the fellas, gals just ignored me altogether. But we're in the locker room, so we're changing into our gym clothes. So of course they see my bird chest. I mean, they're not wrong. That's really where I can't be mad at them too much. It wasn't like, I mean, there have been many names that I've been called in my life that are not accurate. I've never had intercourse with my mother. I do not embody the I was trying to think of ways to euphemize a lot of these things. I'm not a female dog. I do know my father. I was not born out of wedlock. I'm trying to think of like all the big ones. I'm not a donkey. I'm not a burro. I'm also not defined by my posterior. Like the posterior part of me, my entire being is not a posterior. I don't know. I really don't want to go through all of them. And they've come up with some really new creative ones these days. Back when in my day, it was pretty simplistic. But I am also not, even though I was born initially, had some dyslexia, mild dyslexia. That's pretty much worked itself out at this point. So, but I'm not, I don't have mental development issues. So I've been called a lot of things that are not accurate, but Bird Chest Bob was about as accurate as you get. The Bob part was subjective, but the bird chest, that was definitive. I had a bird chest. I could not have it. I mean, I wasn't strong, but I was not incredibly weak either in terms of actual like strength, being able to do things. It wasn't like I was like some sickly lad or anything. I could do stuff, but it didn't look like it. I couldn't put on muscle. No matter what I did push-ups. I mean, I'm not going to pretend like I tried really, really hard to build muscle at the time, but in the few times where I thought it would be convenient to have a bit of a pectoral area and maybe a little gun, guns here or so, in those brief moments, come to think of it, that might have been the culprit more so than my metabolism. It might have been the fact that I really wanted to get buff for like 2 days at a time. And then I kind of got tired of that and stopped doing the exercise. So that might have factored in. I don't really know. Who's to say? I just know I couldn't put on weight. I didn't put on weight. So I mean, which is great getting through college. I mean, I crap you not, there were days where I would have 3 boxes of Kraft macaroni and cheese, one for breakfast, one for lunch, one for like a post-lunch thing, and then I would have like a bowl of ice cream for dinner. It was glorious. It was wonderful. And I did that, I mean, even after graduation, like, which is kind of sad. It was a sad state of affairs after graduation in a lot of ways. Couldn't get a job, which is kind of the opposite of what you're told when you're like told to go for your degree. And you're told, hey, employers like general degrees, because you know what? The bottom line is they're going to teach you what they want to teach you anyway. They need to know that you're teachable, which is what a degree tells them. And if you have a general field of study, like say communications, that can be applied to any area. They always need, like the military needs communication officers. You need communication people in, pretty much any business. That's a useful skill. It's not they didn't tell you this, but it's not a solo skill. It's not like, well, you're our communicator. No, all of us are just like, I am the most articulate communicator right now. But if you talk to anybody else, we need someone like you who can communicate. And really, the sham became exposed when you got to your higher level classes. So you're already invested. You're in the middle of it. You're in your third year, halfway through your third year, and you're going, I'm starting to wonder about the viability and usability of this degree. We're giving theories, like we're actually naming theories after people that just say, hey, when I nod, that's called feedback. Non-verbal feedback. Okay. I mean, you're a layperson. Who cares? It doesn't matter. I wouldn't be like, look, your nonverbal feedback needs some work. I don't understand. What do you mean? We've not been effectively communicating? Well, we have. I mean, you've been giving me nonverbal feedback, but I would like you to do it better. And I'm going to call it nonverbal feedback to justify my degree, so that when you ask me what the crap I'm talking about, unless you can infer it just by context, which is more than likely, so I might have to backtrack this, but otherwise I do that so that I can tell you and you can know that the money I spent on my degree was money well spent. So nonverbal feedback means anything you're not saying. Well, yeah, anything you're not saying, like your words, like nonverbals. That's a nonverbal. I bet you didn't know that, did you? Because you're not a communication major. But nonverbals, it doesn't mean there's no auditory sound. It's just it's things you're doing. I mean, I don't know. I don't have a lot of nonverbal range, at least off the cuff. He put me on the spot here. But yeah, that's what I was told. That's what I was taught, is that they need broad. You need to go broad. Don't go specialized. And it made sense. And it still makes sense now. Like, I mean, there are a lot of jobs where they want to teach you. And whatever you learn in school, most of it is either obsolete because the world has moved on since you took those classes in your junior year. So in 2 years, the industry has changed more so. The teachers are not necessarily, your professors aren't necessarily, a lot of them are plugged in or have been plugged in recently. Some of them have never left academia. So all they know is what exists in their little academic bubble and theory and all that stuff. And that's where I just remember going, there was a guy called the Venerable Bede. I crap you not. Look him up. I don't even remember what he does or what he did. I just remember I drew a picture in communication class of the Venerable Bede. And it was like a little bead that you would get from, like that you'd put on like a necklace or something, like a little wooden bead. It had a little hole in the top, whatever. And it, I gave him a little mask and a cape because I didn't know what venerable meant exactly, but it sounded like a superhero thing. So I drew him in the little superhero pose. Those were my notes. Those were my upper level communication notes. I drew a picture of a masked wooden bead and put the Venerable Bede on the paper. That was my schooling. Money well spent, time well spent. I could have been a plumber. Actually, I don't know. I really don't handle poop well. Is that? That's not from experience. That's from a lack of experience. That is an aversion to experience. In fact, the main reason why I haven't had kids, aside from not having a wife or a girlfriend, really, is the dirty diapers. Unless she could guarantee me in writing, in contract, I don't care about a prenup. I want you to say in writing that you will be the one solo responsible for changing the diapers. That's the guarantee that I want. I will guarantee that, you get my money or something. I don't know what I got to do, but that's what I need from you as a guarantee. If we're going to have kids, I need to know you're changing the diaper and I don't have to look at that mess. Literally that mess. I don't know. Maybe some people do handle poop well. I'm not saying people like it. There are people who do. That's why anytime somebody talks about the personal taste or what's weird or what's not, like there are people, like if we want to talk about, let's say I'm just gonna throw a little jab out here, the Star Wars prequels, okay? And I say they're crappy, and you say they're awesome. And I say, well, that's fine because there are people who think getting pooped on is also awesome. So I mean, it's a wide range. It's a wide range, folks. There are people that like crazy things that you wouldn't think they would, or that they should, or that's hygienically sound or healthy to like them. But it just sets the bar really low. So it's like, well, just because you like it doesn't mean it's good, because there are people that like a lot of things that objectively are not good or healthy. So anyway, I just wanted to do a jab. There'll be more to come. Trust me, if we're going to be talking about stuff, I will be talking about Star Wars at some point, because that was the main course, the main event for a good chunk of my adolescence. Like pretty much 5 to 19 was dominated in some way or form by Star Wars. So anyway, but that's a talk for a different day. Let me get back to busting the fat chops. So yeah, for those of you who don't know, you haven't had experience yet, your metabolism will go into part-time and then it will just retire. It's off on an island somewhere. It's doing its own thing, living its best life, and you are going to be left without it. And it's going to be up to you to fill in. You're going to have to now work twice as hard. You're already having to work. You're already in the middle of having to work your butt off. Like it would be fine if the metabolism went the other way. Look, hey, there's nothing else going on. How about you take a little responsibility and you work on your calorie burn? Okay, so get out there and play. I mean, we're doing it anyway. Like that's the other thing too. Metabolism. It's like, no, I helped for like 20 years. I worked my butt off walking uphill both ways to get to work, to take care of you, to make sure. And I'm like, look, I was doing most of the work. Yes, I was eating a lot, but I was also like nonstop going all over the place because my body could do that. Now my body's like, you want to get out of bed? Oh, I don't know. I don't really know. That's a tall order. I mean, we can give it a try. We'll see how it goes. One leg in front of the other, as they say. Well, don't do that. We'll fall on our face. Yeah, we'll try to get this going. We'll try to make this happen today. So at some point today, the alarm went off, but you don't have to be up. So, let's just see if we can work up to a full upright standing position. maybe walk. Oh, got to go to the bathroom. That happens at this age a lot more often. Well, I guess we're getting up now. So that's usually how it works. And I think that's how, you talk about, like, as you get older, you hear people saying they have to get up in the middle of the night. I think it's nature's way of calling you to make sure you still get up. Because, at least speaking for myself, I might not otherwise. But that's one of the perils of working from home. If I had a real job, I'd just have to get up because I gotta work. But in any case, by the way, the mighty mug of messaging, it's blank right now. What a metaphor that is. But yeah, the metabolism acts like it did all this work. But when your body was healthy, functional, you had all the energy in the world, you were out there burning stuff naturally. I mean, every day I was out there playing football, basketball, riding my bike. Now it's, I'm playing Nintendo. I'm playing retro games or something. I'm doing this. Everything revolves around sitting in a chair. It's not exactly heavy duty stuff here. So yeah, I'm calling shenanigans on the metabolism. It was working when you were doing a lot of the work. So I'm like, hey, you could have taken the time off. You could have just sat there and been dormant for the first 20 years of my life, and I would have been fine. Would not have gained any weight. I may have gained some. Like I said, 3 boxes of Kraft macaroni and cheese. You know how many calories are in a box of Kraft macaroni and cheese? I don't remember exactly, but I think the pre-ingredient count was only like 800. You're like, okay, or 900. But then as soon as you add the butter and the milk, which you really have to add because otherwise you don't have mac and cheese, you have powder, cheese powder, which, yeah, that doesn't sound all that great, but I loved it. All the kids had it growing up. I never really got it growing up because it's patently unhealthy. My mom would make homemade mac and cheese, but I really like that zesty tang of the Kraft. I don't know what it would. Anyway, but when you add the ingredients, it's like 1,200 calories for one box. So you could almost, for a lot of us, myself included, you could pretty much almost maximize your baseline calorie count with one box for the entire day. I had three boxes a day plus ice cream and then whatever the cafeteria was serving in the dorms. So, well, and subtract that part out for earlier in life because we didn't have a cafeteria. I was eating us out of house and home, so there wasn't always as much food. My mom used to pack my food not in a little brown paper bag, or I had one of those lunch boxes. Y'all I don't know if they do these anymore, but they had these. It was either metal or plastic, but they were a very specific style of lunchbox. They had all brands for everything, every cartoon, every toy, every show, everything came out with a lunchbox. That was like your standard merch. You know how nowadays, like on YouTube, you've got somebody, check out our merch shop, and everybody's got the t-shirt that you can, mass produce, brand, whatever, and maybe the hat or the koozie or something like that. Lunchboxes were the official brand of, they had it in Spaceballs. Spaceballs, a lunchbox. Space, the DVD. What was it? Spaceballs, I just remember the ends with flamethrower. What was it? Spaceballs, the lunchbox. Spaceballs, the t-shirt. Spaceballs, the flamethrower. I think that's what it was. Works in threes. I think that's all there was. Anyway, I don't know Spaceballs as well as I knew Star Wars, although it's getting there. So yeah, I call shenanigans on the metabolism. But regardless of what I call and how I say it and what I did or didn't need, the bottom line is 30 years old, guaranteed. It is no longer part-time. It is gone, and you are responsible for making sure you don't balloon, for lack of a better word. You don't start muffin topping on everything. And this is where we get down to the nefarious of fat. And this is going to be educational. This is edutainment right here. This is a heads up for those who haven't caught on to the nefarious practices of fat. As I said, the key is delayed reaction. So you're sitting there making healthy decisions. You're only eating one box of Kraft macaroni and cheese a day. You're having a pizza. Maybe it's delivery. Maybe it's DiGiorno. Either way, you're having a pizza, probably for dinner. You got the ice cream. You're going to have the ice cream because life isn't worth living unless you have a little bowl or quart or pint of ice cream. I think quart's bigger than a pint. Not the half gallon is my point. Not that big, but just a serving, really. A legitimate serving. You can't, when they say, 3 tablespoons of ice cream, that's not a serving. That's torture. Hey, here's just a little bit of goodness. Just as soon as you got used to eating ice cream, you got to stop eating it. No, a serving is a pint. I think that's the size. Yeah, I'm going to say a pint. That is a one serving. I don't care what the FDA says. You don't do that for ice cream. You can do that for vegetables if you want, but you can't do that for ice cream. But anyway, you're just having a maybe not the best diet, but a decent one. And you do that for like 2 weeks and you don't get fat. You don't see it really. I mean, you might see a little bit of pudge. You might notice a little bit. You might see the scale go a little bit, but you're going, look, apparently my metabolism is still working fine because I'm eating all this stuff that I know is probably a little, it's a little aggressive on the calorie side, but everything's going okay. I don't see a problem. So you get it in your head that this way of eating is okay. And so you keep eating it and you keep eating it and you keep eating it. And then one day it all just slams right into you. It hits you. I don't know. Like overnight, it is literally overnight. You could watch, if you did a video, it'd be a horrible video to watch, but you put a camera over the bed and you watch, you just see your side just go, I mean, I don't know. You just wake up, you're like, holy cow, what just happened? Because all this time I've been eating and not really gaining anything. And now suddenly, kablunk, I'm a tank. And that's the first half of it. That's the bummer. It lulls you. It makes you think because it doesn't hit you the day of. It's not like, and I'm talking about like, to really understand it, if you're in the mindset, you're trying to be responsible, you got to eat responsibly. So you've been eating responsibly, but then you gradually kind of loosen up a little bit in terms of, when you eat, making sure you're not eating too late in the day. You start adding more meals. You're kind of eating throughout the day. You're adding a little more sugars, a little more carbs because, you're feeling bad about yourself. So you eat a little thing. The life is uncertain. There's a lot of emotional turmoil. You want a little pizza pie to hold that over. And it tastes better on the day of. So you don't want any leftovers because you're making sure that nothing goes to waste. So you eat the whole pizza because you really can't stop. It's just so darn good. So you're doing all of that gradually. And then so you start settling on a diet that you feel comfortable with. The amount of sugar, the amount of carbs, and everything that you think are good. And that's what I'm talking about, where it doesn't show up. You look at them and you're like dipping your toe in the water. You're like, oh, okay, I can have ice cream at night. It doesn't seem to be doing anything to me. Oh, okay, pizza or two. That's not so bad either. Okay, this isn't so bad. Apparently, I can get away with some stuff. And then you just wade into the water, and then you've seen the movie Jaws. You're just kind of hanging out in the water, and the next thing you know, and you've been taken across. You're being devoured by the fat. It mauls you. It lulls you in, makes you think you're staying the course. You're doing a good thing, and then it completely destroys you. So that's phase one. Phase two makes it even worse. Again, delayed reaction. So you go, you know what? I can't do. I am not able to fit into my elastic waist shorts anymore. That was one of the big casualties for. Well, I don't want to diminish. Well, look, I think that's part of comedies. You don't have to keep prefacing. The whole point is this isn't heartfelt stuff. I will let you know. I will give you a disclaimer or a caveat if I'm gonna go have a real moment here, folks. We're gonna get real here for a second. I'll let you know. Otherwise, this is just talking about stuff. One of the big casualties for COVID for me. From working, we got to work from home, which was great. That was fantastic. The problem with working from home is, even if you have to get on Zoom calls, you only have to be presentable from the waist up. So, you can wear a t-shirt or, even a polo shirt, but I'm either, and I was living alone at the time. So I'm either in my boxers, which to be honest, even that felt a little bit weird. So I don't think I ever was on a Zoom call in my boxers. I don't know if it was a psychological thing, what if the camera drops or something, but I mean, I'm sitting at my desk, so it's not like they would see anything anyway, but it's I don't know. That felt a little too far. So in theory, I could just go boxers, but I never did. But I'd wear jersey or athletic shorts, the shorts you wear when you're playing sports or whatever. They have an elastic waistband. Elastic waistbands were the worst thing that has happened to people when it comes to their weight. Because elastic waistbands don't tell you, hey, you're not fitting in me anymore. At least not for a long time. So jeans, my jeans, the more broken in they are, the more forgiving they are. But your jeans will tell you this isn't right. Because the button gets harder and harder, and you start to feel gassy just by putting the jeans on, because they're kind of squishing all your intestines together. and you're like, oh, this is not good. And so it's an immediate thing. I don't want this to get worse. This is unsustainable. Like, I kind of have to have that button unbuttoned whenever I can, and hope I remember to button it up before, things get out of hand. And especially if you're at work, that's a dangerous proposition. So you're very motivated to keep your weight down. Otherwise, you got to go buy a new pair of jeans, and that feels bad. I don't think. You want to talk about a walk of shame? Walking to a Kohl's or a department store, wherever you buy your jeans, Walmart, and having to pick the next size up, not because you wore the other ones out, not because, I don't know about anybody else. The crotch wears out of my jeans. I don't know why. I don't really do much with it, to be honest. But for some reason, a lot of the jeans I have, the first place the hole showed up was the crotch. So I don't know what's going on with that. I'm hoping there's a scientific reason for it that doesn't say I'm sitting wrong or something. But anyway, it's one thing you go, okay, these jeans are frayed. They've been around for 30 years. They're threadbare if they're not completely holy. It's time for a new pair of jeans. You don't want to do it. It's reluctant. You don't need to do it technically, but yeah, they're looking kind of ratty. People are looking at you weird. The polo that used to look okay with them now looks really, really weird. It's like, why? It's like, okay, just got through with, mowing your lawn, and now you're trying to go business casual. It doesn't really work. So, but not for those reasons. Those are good reasons. No, you're going there because you have a perfectly good pair of jeans at home, but they don't fit anymore because you pudged out. That is the worst feeling. So not only is it the psychological shame of it, I'm driving for the sole reason because I pudged out. I'm shopping right now. I'm spending how much money on a new pair of jeans because I pudged out. I'm driving all the way home right now. And now I have to break these jeans in, all because I pudged out. So that's like nature's, I don't know how natural denim is. It's cotton, right? I think it's a form of cotton. Anyway, I don't know how natural it is, but ideally, it's nature's way of telling you, ease off the carbs, ease off the calories. But if you're working from home and you don't have to put on a pair of jeans and all you're wearing is a pair of elastic shorts, there's nothing telling you, hey, you're getting a little big. Like, you can look at yourself, but I'm not a vain person. I don't look at myself in the mirror very often. I do if I'm trimming the nose hair or, doing the shaving, whatever. But even then, I'm not really, it's function driven. I'm not looking at myself going, here's me looking at myself as I'm taking care of my face. I'm looking at where I need to shave. I'm looking at the nose hairs. Like, that's my focus. So I don't really care about anything else that's going on. And when it's gradual, even your own eyes aren't going to see it. It doesn't. Well, okay, I know I just contradicted myself. I said it hits you really hard, but I'm talking about something different now. I'm talking about the pant line and that kind of fat. So the bottom line is, it hits you, it does, but then it just gets worse. So I jumped my BMI, which is BS as far as I'm concerned most of the time, because it doesn't take into account muscle. So your ideal BMI for 6'2" Some people say I'm taller. Some people say I'm shorter, depending on how tall they are. So it's either somebody who is 6'1" and doesn't want to believe they're 6'1" because they're shorter than me. So I must be 6'3", so they can be 6'2" like they want to believe. Or it's somebody who's really tall and wants you to feel ridiculous and like, no, man, you're like 6'1", man. I'm taller than you. Anyway, I don't know how tall, but we're going to say on average 6'2". Not particularly big boned. So my BMI is like 195 to 205 or something, or 190 to 205. I don't know, somewhere in there, ideal. But and to be fair, like Jerry Rice, like a lot of these athletes that I grew up admiring, the wide receivers particularly, they had the same kind of body type, same height roughly, and they were about, like, you look at the card anyway, it tells you they weighed 185, 190. So even with muscle, it's possible to get there. I haven't seen that side of 200 in like 20 years. Ever since metabolism took its vacation or retired, I don't think I've seen myself on that side of 200. But there's a difference between, bam, pudging out at like 220 and going, okay, 34s are a little tight now. I've been wearing those my whole life. Needed a belt for some of it. Now they're a little snug. Okay, that's fine. But then what happens when you have your elastic pants, your elastic waistline, is it goes from 220, 230, 235. You see where this is going. The numbers just keep going up. I think I capped out at like 248. I might have hit 250. I don't know. I stopped looking after I hit like once I noticed the numbers weren't ever going down, I eventually just stopped. So I don't know how bad it got. But when I started waking myself up with noises that I would make in the night that I never made when I wasn't pudgy, that's when I say, okay, it's gone too far. That's my line now. So the original line was my waistline, and that would flag me at like 220. So, okay, I pudged out. Oh my gosh, this happened. Let me go ahead and start trimming back down. So I don't have to go do the walk of shame, the purchase of shame, and buy myself bigger jeans. The waistline, though, allows you to go up to expand, literally expand up to, and including like 240 pounds, another 25 to 30 pounds at least. I still hadn't quite maxed out the elastic, if I'm being perfectly honest. For comedy, you could say I've kind of stretched them as far as they can go, which is saying something. If you have size 34 stretchy elastic shorts and you max those out, you're probably at like a size 42 or 44 or something, or 46 even. It's crazy. So anyway, that's what I mean by that. It was not good because your pants are expanding with you. So they're accommodating your extra pudge instead of confining it. Until they kind of start slowing down. You go, oh, I bent over like the elastic band, like so on my shorts, the elastic band is kind of like this. Not like, it's not quite like boxers, like professional boxers where their waistline is like this thick, which is kind of weird. But like, it's about like this. So when you bend over and that folds over on itself and it stays there, like your pudge has encroached upon it. It is bent under the weight, and it just sits down there like, I'm not getting back up. So you're trying to pull your shorts up, you're trying to do whatever you feel, your waistband has been doubled over. That is when you know it's gone too far, because somehow it has managed to bypass the dam that is the waistline of your shorts, and it just plunges over, and the pudge is just hanging there. So all of that's the horror of it. That's the reality of it. That's getting you into that state of ridiculous pudge where it starts to really screw with your life. Like you can't see your toes anymore and all that kind of stuff. The other delayed reaction that fat kills you with is going away, because you go, okay, I've got a problem. I've got to solve it. Check out the hook. I didn't have anywhere to go. I thought maybe my brain would come up with something clever. It did not. So that just fell flat. A little Vanilla Ice reference there for the only song of his that I know somewhat. Anywho, I need to lose weight. Let's get this done. So you spend like 2 weeks. 2 weeks. That's not a short amount of time. That's half a month. That's a fortnight, as I've come to know. A fortnight of like really like 1,000 calories a day. I think for me, it's like 1,500. If I'm sedentary, I should be burning at my size 1,500 calories or 1,600 calories or something. So I'm like, hey, burn more than you eat and you're good to go. And that's true. That is true. Now, obviously, you want to compare, like you want to pair diet with exercise. And even when I did CrossFit for a brief time until I injured my shoulder, that's legit. That's not just an excuse. Seriously, it is. Stop laughing. Don't doubt me. I'm telling the truth. Caveat, serious. I did screw up my shoulder doing CrossFit. Anyway, but I want you to know that I didn't just bail on it because it was hard. I actually liked the fact that it was difficult. It was invigorating. But my trainer, the guy who kind of introduced me to it and got me, going through everything, said, look, diet is going to be more of it than the exercise is going to get you sculpted. It's going to get you toned. It's going to get you looking, and feeling fit. But if you just want to talk about weight loss, your diet is a bigger impact than your exercise. But you need to do both. So you do both. I started doing push-ups. I started going for walks, and then I can't do runs. You can't just, at my age, you can't just go running. If you're used to walking and barely doing that much at all, you can't start. You will get shin splints. I have got them many times, and they're debilitating for like a month and a half. So you do not want shin splints. The impact on your knees, everything, you need to work into it. So even if you want to, today I'm going to start running. No, you're not. Not if you haven't been running in a year. If you're over the age of, I would say 35, and you have not been actively running, you have not been actively doing any like really physical activity in that degree. Even if you've been doing like a stationary bike, your muscles are there, but the impact, your body is not used to the impact. It is not going to go well for you. Don't like, you need to, I got to do like an eighth of a mile for like a week, and then a quarter of a mile for another like week and a half, and then whatever. So, but my point is, you do what you can, and you say, I'm doing these exercises, getting my calorie burn going. I'm not eating as many pizzas or as much ice cream. I'm using their recommended sampling. And at that point, I just don't eat it. I'm like, look, if I can't have the whole pint, I'm just not going to start eating. Why would I do that to myself? It's called indulgence, not torture. Yeah, it just doesn't make sense. So I just gave up ice cream. And in all seriousness, I did. I really went, and if I had been able to stick with it, I would have seen the weight loss. But delayed reaction, you can do it. Just like it takes like 1 or 2 weeks before you start noticing, oh, my poor eating habits are actually having an impact. Your good eating habits, your good exercise, it takes like 2, 3, over 2 weeks, I can tell you, because, it's just like trying to break any habit or anything. I think they say it takes 21 days to take your mind out of a habit. Just guarantee yourself it's going to take 21 days of good, healthy eating, steadfast eating, and exercise to start seeing a change. So what happens, you get, for me, a week is a long time to be, if I've decided that I want to fit into my 34 jeans again, it needs to happen now. It needs to happen pronto. I made the decision now. And with most things in life, when you make a decision, that's it. Like, things change at that point. Say, you know what? I'm going to stop doing this. Boom, you stop doing it. You're not doing it anymore. It's a decision. It's a choice. It's done. You say, okay, I'm going to spend more time doing X. And so you make the choice. You start doing X, and now you have therefore spent time doing X, just as you planned, just as you said, just as you chose. I'm choosing to quit my job. I'm choosing to find a job. I'm choosing to, finally beat the Zelda 64, Ocarina of Time. I've never played it even, really. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna make it a point. I can make that decision today, and I can start doing it. You can't do that when it comes to weight loss. You can make your decision, but you're not actually going to see it. And it can rebound. You don't want to be checking the scale either at that point early on, because it will bounce back and forth. Yeah, if you do it every day in the morning, there's times you can do it. Like, you want to be regular about it in terms of checking the weight. But even then, it can still fluctuate. It doesn't necessarily mean, because you got water weight, you got any number of factors that could be screwing with that. But gradually, just like the stock market, the trend, the inverse of the stock market, the trend should always be going down. It's going to pop back up. But all it takes is that one moment where you're just like, I had nothing but like broccoli and air yesterday, and today I weigh 0.02 ounces more than I did yesterday. Like that broke my back. That broke my will, was spending a day exercising and not eating what I wanted, and my weight not dropping by like 2 or 3 pounds. And I'm like, screw it. There's no point. It's not happening. And and that's a little extreme, but even 2 weeks in, you might not see it. And you got to remind yourself, you didn't see the fat coming for 2 weeks either. So you got to have psychological warfare against the fat, because the fat has evolved to keep itself on your body. And it's like, if I just take a little time and ease into it, then bam, hit them hard, I can hang out for a while. And then if I take my time leaving, he might just decide it's not worth it, and that he can't beat me, and I'm just the way things are now. Ha ha ha. That's how fat sounds, by the way. That's documented. So that is the nefariousness of fat. And that is why it is effective, because of delayed reaction. So I say all that not just as doom and gloom, but just to say, if you are trying to lose the weight, just know you're going to have to ignore the scale, ignore what you see, ignore everything for like 3 weeks before. Like, don't even start expecting to see any results for 3 weeks, because it's not going to be there. It's not going to be as consistent. Now you go hardcore, like, and to be honest, I am going hardcore. This is the month of May, so this is the first. This is May 1st, 2026. Let the record show that on this day I began what will be a 30-day fast. Water, there might be like liquids, like some fluids, like bone broth and things like that. I haven't really nailed down exactly how little, but what we're like, no big time foods or anything like that. Like no food, like I'm not going to be eating anything. It's going to be, getting electrolytes and making sure I get the vitamins or what have you, but not actually eating anything. My jaw should not be getting a workout this month. I will be drinking whatever I have. And it's not going to be like, because I tried, like one time I did a fast or, it was fast, diet, whatever you want to call it. There is, for me, a little bit of a, trying to get myself right. I'm also not getting on any kind of social media for the month unless it's like necessary. Like I'm going to upload a video onto YouTube. I got to get on there, but I'm not going to be scrolling through stuff, and I'm already not doing the other stuff. But just cutting that back, just trying to get myself in a good head and body space. And by body space, I mean my 34 jeans again, dag nabbit. I don't even have 34s anymore. The newest pair of jeans I bought was a 36. I did the walk of shame. I've got a 36 hanging in my closet, brand new, because I already outgrew them. Well, outgrowing is what you do as you're growing up. I exploded over them. So yeah, what I was saying, just stick with it. 21 days, yada, yada, yada. Fight the good fight. Oh, and that's what I'm doing now. So hopefully over the course of these videos, and I won't be doing these on weekends. So it's Monday through Friday. Hopefully there will be a noticeable difference in the pudginess of my face. It is, for me personally, repugnant now, just because, I'll happen to see an image of myself when I was a little bit younger, not even a lot younger. Like, let's go back 3 years. It wasn't like I was still in my 40s, but I had a little bit of my act together, just a little bit. And I go, I want to have my act together like that. I want to see that I've got a jaw. Anyway, we'll see. I'm not a vain person. It's more about how you feel than how you look, because I don't see myself really, other than like when I'm showering, obviously. But I don't really look at myself. I'm not that interesting. I've seen myself for 45 years. I don't really care anymore. But how I feel is a big difference. And how I feel when I'm trying to wear clothes. When I went and did stand-up this last time, this is such a tease, because I'm supposed to be talking about this doing stand-up, and we just finished the first instance. But when I went there, I wanted to wear my jeans and a 3/4 baseball shirt, which I'll tell you, it's weird how tastes evolved. When I was growing up, I hated the 3/4 t-shirt. You know what I'm talking about? Like what they used to wear on baseball, where it's not a long sleeve shirt, but it's not a short sleeve shirt. Short sleeve shirt, like, kind of usually stops at middle of your bicep or kind of towards your elbow, just depending on how buff you happen to be and how much you want people to see that bicep. But usually it comes down to no further. It doesn't go past your elbow. That would look silly. Or you got a long sleeve, which goes down to your wrist. Well, you had the 3/4 it went just past your elbow. It was kind of like I don't know why I'm getting so particular with this. Like the middle of your forearm-ish. But I didn't like it, because to me, commit. Either be a short sleeve or a long sleeve. This 3/4 thing, I'm all in one way or the other. I'm either short sleeving it or I'm long sleeving it. I don't want this half measure. Well, I'm not really either one. But I love them now. That's my favorite kind of shirt. And I roll them up just a little bit. So they are still not quite t-shirts, but I don't know. You just move them up on the arm a little to get a little bit of the wrinkle there. I love it. I love it. It's like my favorite look. That or a Henley, which is essentially a 3/4 t-shirt. Well, it could be a long sleeve, but I just roll the sleeve. I just push the sleeves up anyway, but that has like little buttons, so it makes it all fancy and whatnot. Those are my favorite. You cannot wear those if you have pudge, because they are the ones that I have, for whatever reason, they're not form-fitting, they're not tailored, but you can see the pudge very easily in those. I don't know why. I don't know what the mechanics of it are, but it's very obvious. They do nothing to hide that. I can wear a t-shirt and it hides it just fine. People are like, oh man, you're fine. I'm like, not if I lived to this t-shirt. You wouldn't say that. But I wanted to wear either one of those and a pair of jeans, a nice pair of boot cut jeans. I'm out here in Texas. I don't have Texas boots, but I probably should get some cowboy boots. They look very uncomfortable though. The tapered toe really just looks like it would be very uncomfortable, but I can't imagine people wearing uncomfortable footwear. Well, guys wearing uncomfortable footwear. Women, the footwear you guys wear, I don't know if there's a like low-key sadistic, masochistic tendency. I can't imagine almost any of those shoes being comfortable. They're like, the most adorable thing. It's like it's barely a strap of a piece of leather with some straps on it. Like, it doesn't constitute a shoe. It's a glorified flip-flop with a little bit more, or it's got a heel stuck on the bottom of it. What women subject their feet to is crazy to me. But for a guy, I just can't imagine a guy would be wearing footwear that is not comfortable. Although there are a lot of, well, I shouldn't say a lot. Like, to be fair, the name brand shoes, they are pretty comfortable. Like, I remember growing up, my feet were growing at an exponential rate. Sometimes I'd outgrow shoes in a month, and you can't be shelling out $50 a pop a month, single income family, already eating out of house and home. They were not going to be able to spend $50 every month or two or three maybe on a pair of shoes because they no longer fit. So I was getting, we'd go to Kmart, which is kind of like Walmart, but somehow cheaper, I think. And so I'd get to pick out from a certain selection in Kmart. There were some in Kmart. They didn't have like the name brand shoes. You're not getting Nikes, Adidas. They didn't have New Balance back then, I don't think. At least I didn't know about them. Fila, Reebok, Champion. Like, you weren't getting any of those brands there. But there were some that were a little expensive for the Bobos. They were the Bobo Primo, and they had to be at a certain price point. I never knew what the price point was. At that point, I was too young. I really wasn't paying attention to that. Mom was paying. It didn't matter. But I just knew I really like these. Well, what about these over here, son? Don't these look really cool too? I just know I was being dissuaded. In the back of my mind, it's like, there's something fishy going on here. I think she's trying to say that she doesn't want to buy these particular shoes. And if I did press the point, I think she'd say, well, son, these are a little expensive. You know, we would get there eventually, but look over here. The problem is there wasn't really anything to look at. Like, I went to the one pair of shoes that I thought were okay, and unfortunately I have very expensive taste. Was it champagne taste on a beer budget or caviar? I don't know. I like expensive things, but not because I can afford the finer things. I just like them. I went to a thrift shop. It's just, you know, life isn't fair. We know this. It applies to everybody, but there are times where it just feels like life is really just kicking you in the proverbial crotch all the time. And so it was like, you know, when I couldn't find a job after I got through college and had my degree, but I was trying to get some new clothes for the job hunt, or I can't remember what it was. So I went to a thrift shop, right? And usually, and they have like different thrift shops work it different ways, but a lot of times they'll have like a system. They'll be like, a blue sticker means it's 50 cents. Yellow sticker means this. Anyway, they have a system. And so I'm going through, I'm not really paying attention. I'm like, I'm in a thrift shop. Whatever I want to get, I can afford it because I've got $5 in my pocket. I can pretty much buy whatever I want. I am king of when it comes to clothes. I'm not ridiculous. Like, I'm not expecting to buy a new TV for anything less than like $10, but you know, at least in the clothing department, I should be good with my $5. And I'm going through flip. Oh, that's a nice one right there. Oh, that is short. So I take that one, and then I go through nothing. Like, I'm searching for like 30 minutes. Oh, bam, found another one. 2 shirts. I got my shirts. I go to the checkout line. I'm not paying attention to the stickers. I got $5. $15 for one. They were the black sticker. They were the echelon, the upper echelon of the thrift shop offerings. I chose 2 shirts that were out of my budget in a thrift shop. It was a thrift store. I was just like, what life? What are you doing? I was like, do you guys have layaway? I didn't have a credit card at the time. Oh my gosh. I was like, why? The only 2 shirts in 30 minutes of looking that I actually liked, that I was drawn towards, that I chose to take with me to the register. The only 2. And I don't know, they might have been the only 2 black labels in the store. I don't know. All I know is the 2 that I picked, the only 2 that I liked in that store, were the most expensive. And even for thrift shop, it's like, what are these things made out of? Holy cow. I didn't care. It just broke my heart. Anyway, All right. I went off. That was a tangent off a tangent off a tangent. See if we can circle back around to buying jeans. That might have been where we went off. And footwear. So yeah, I wanted to wear, I remember it, wanted to wear a nice Henley or a 3/4 t-shirt and a pair of jeans and some boots, not cowboy boots, but just nice rugged boots. Kind of make me feel like I'm standing tall. And in fact, they would give me an extra like half inch or so of height and make me look even more funny. I don't know. But that's what I wanted to wear. But instead, I had to wear my redemption khakis, my adaptable khakis, my khakis that have a section of the waistline or the waistband that is elastic. They look like normal everyday khakis, but on the sides there are, I don't know what the engineering is. I really haven't looked at them that closely. Somehow it's like an overlapping thing where there's an outer band, but anyway, but there's elastic in them. And that's the only reason I still fit into them. I've had those things for years, but I usually didn't wear them because they are a little baggy, but they saved my bacon. That's what I had to wear. That and an unbuttoned or a unbuttoned. That's a different kind of show. It was oops. That's what I get for making a off-color joke. Yes, that's the kind of risque content you can expect on Sit Down Stand Up. Anyway, if you were listening, I'm sorry you didn't see that visual. You probably heard me bump the microphone though, so just know something hilarious happened, and you just let your mind go wherever it will on that. So anyway, I had to adapt my voice. So that's what I'm saying. It's not so much about a vanity. I do want to see me, and just for the way I'm built, I feel like I don't want me to be buried. I feel like fat kind of buries me. That the extra pudge, extra weight, I don't see myself. I don't need to be skeletal. I don't need to be rail thin. Like I said, my goal is is like 200. Like I would love to, I don't even know that I'll ever get to 200 again in my life, unless, I get to be really, really old. But like 210, 215, that's not anywhere close to BMI. That's not anywhere close to skeletal. That's just not really overweight technically, but not like overweight. So yeah, I do want to see me, but I also want to be able to fit into my clothes. I do have a decent sized wardrobe I've accumulated over the past like 30 years of living on my own and everything. No thanks to the thrift store. Never went back there. Well, I mean, I think I've gone to a thrift store since, but now I know, hey, read the labels. Like look at the stickers. If you're expecting to know what you're getting into, yeah, be educated on so you know things. That's the moral of that story. But then also don't pay for an education unless you're specializing in something. That's the other moral, because yeah, that's anyway, this would have been a perfect place to wrap it up, but we're not done yet. So we're jumping back in with the fat, I guess. I mean, that's really it. I feel like that's, I kind of plumb that in terms of my angst. So yeah, just stick with it. If you decided to go for it, stick with it. I'm going to go for a month. We'll see how it goes. And that's that. So back to New Jersey and the Captain Morgan. So I think I had that when I did stand up. No, actually I should have. That would have given me a little confidence. Hey, I've got a gimmick. I've got a quirk, but I'm pretty sure I mentioned that it got long enough and ostentatious enough that when I would lay down, sometimes it would poke me either on the side of the nose or a couple times it would go right up it. And eventually I was just okay. I'm bored with the grooming thing. I'm bored with having to do the twist to make it go whatever. And I really didn't, because I didn't realize how brilliant I was to have such a noticeable characteristic in a job where, you needed people to remember who you were, so you got credit for the work you did for them for getting for a sale. I cut the mustache off because it wasn't Captain Morgan. It wasn't going to exist at all. I'm not a big fan of the stash on its own solo. For me personally, I don't think it's not a good look for me. I do not feel swell. So if it's not going to Captain Morgan, it's not going to be there at all. So I'd cut that off. But I made a friend at Circuit City. His name was Larry. He told me to call him the La. Took a little getting used to there, but I just call him Larry. And he was a great guy, really great guy. He's an older gentleman, probably 55 or so. 55 or 60 at the time, but just really nice. And he worked in the back in the computers department. I don't even know how we got to meet, but we would just talk at different points. Like I'd be on the bathroom was back there. So I'd, say, hey Larry, what's going on? It's like, J Money, what's going on, man? And we just start talking and somehow we just kindred spirits. We just started talking and eventually we hung out after work. Now he's a family man. He was married, had 2 kids. Shout out to James. Oh, and I'm sorry, I don't remember his daughter because a lot of the stuff we talked about later on, like after I moved away from New Jersey, we still kept in contact. We still call each other. I'd made plans to go out and visit him. Unfortunately, he did pass away in 2021, I believe it was 2020, 2021 now. I got a call from his son, James, and he said that his father had passed away. So, thank you, Larry. You're incredibly encouraging and loyal and fun and encouraging. Did I say that already? Very encouraging. I mean, he really was. He really believed in me. He really did. He was just a genuinely great guy, a fantastic father. The amount of time that he talked about, his son and his daughter and doing everything. I believe his daughter was younger, so it was a little more with the son at the time. But raised great kids, a great marriage, and just a great man. So, Larry, thank you. Anyway, Larry didn't want to bring that down, but I did want to give that to it. It was a little clunky. I apologize. Was not very eloquent, but I loved you, Larry. I love you. And so he was very encouraging. And again, he did call me J Money. I let it slip that it's a joke. So, going off the bird chest Bob thing, eventually it became funny to give me a cool name. Cause it's always the letter hyphen something, the P. Well, okay. That's not a great example. It sucks when people screw themselves over later in life and it's like, you can't really reference them without it kind of being weird. So you kind of have to not say it, but I'm just trying to think of, J-Lo, I mentioned her in the last one, Jennifer Lopez, you just letter and then hyphen and then something. So anyway, as a joke, the cool kids would call me J Money because my name is Jesse and it was clear I didn't come from money. I don't know where it came from, how it came about. It was not something I chose for myself, but it was something said. It was derisive in a way, but not like mean spirited. Like they were like, hey, J Money, ha, 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 ha. Like they were making fun of me. It was just kind of like, hey, J Money, what's going on? Like chuckle, like giving him like a gangsta name, but he's not at all gangsta. I don't know. So I didn't mind it too much, but so but then I would say that as a joke too, because it was so contrary to who I was and how I operated. You would not peg me as a J Money in any way, shape, or form, in any sense of the word, other than my first name does start with letter J. So you got the first part of the hyphen is okay. The rest of it makes no sense. And then putting it all together makes even less sense. But that's what I was called. And so I would jokingly refer to that. And then my friends would. In fact, it was adorable. I had a friend who I hadn't seen in a long time. I went to high school with him. We were great friends in high school. And they would, then my real friends would call me J Money too. Again, just whenever they were trying to mess with me, or it's like, oh yeah, you tell him J Money. It was that kind of fun banter. So I met him, or I reconnected with him like maybe 8 years later or something. And he had a kid at the time, was like 2.5 years old. And he'd already made another friend. He'd moved on from me, our high school years, best years of our lives. He moved on. He had another friend named Jesse. And so his 2-year-old son, and this Jesse apparently visited a lot. So his son knew him as Jesse. You know what I mean? Or Desi. I think they call him Desi. There was a little bit of a D in there. They called him Desi. So we didn't want to confuse the young lad by saying, well, this is also Desi. So he did a call back and said, can you say J Money? So it was adorable. This little kid's like, J Money. So that was, I only hung out with him pretty much for the day, but a few times, J Money, who's that? J Money. So there you go. I was J Money to a young child. That's the only name he knows me by, because it would have been confusing to say Jesse. Anyway, that was my chime. That was my alarm. So I'm going to wind it down, and that's fine. So, we got to the point of Larry talking to me, being encouraging, telling me J Money. I told him I happened to mention that as a joke in passing. That's just to complete that part of the story. I'd mentioned that in passing, and so it stuck. That's what he called me. I called him the La or Lair, and he called me J Money. And so that relationship would lead me on stage, but that is a story for another time. Thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you next time. Enjoy your weekend.